Hello, today we're going to go over how to change the password on Microsoft Azure HDInsight clusters. You'll see right here I have a little demo resource group for us, and in this resource group I've got a storage account that backs my HDInsight cluster up, a storage account that I'm using for storage of my scripts, the actual HDInsight Storm cluster itself, and then I also have a key vault for storing the credentials. Now, previously, if you wanted to change the password on a cluster, and you'd have to come into the properties of the account, go to the SSH and cluster login section, and hit the reset box. Put in your super strong password. Hit OK and wait for this to go. This in of itself doesn't take a long amount of time, but when you have a lot of clusters to manage across multiple environments, it gets slightly tedious. And these passwords expire every 70 days from a Microsoft policy, so it's something you still have to do fairly frequently. With PowerShell, it's possible to dynamically select clusters that you want to change the password on and have those executed and updated in a more programmatic fashion. There used to be, or there still is, a blog post out there about doing this with executed script action. The problem with doing this as an executed script action off the public examples is that your username and password are parameters to the script action file, which means that anyone who has access to go look at the logs of your cluster can then go look at the script action logs and see the username and password that was passed as parameters, and then have access to those credentials. Well, not something you want to do. With this script that we have over here, what we're going to do is actually dynamically create a Linux script that has our new credentials in it on the fly, upload that to blob storage, have that execute as a script action with everything within contained it, and have no parameters passed, and then also update the key vaults that the passwords are stored in. Now, starting out, if we do our PowerShell window here, I've already imported this script into my profile. This just takes a simple parameter for an environment. This helps it so that in the event you do multiple environments, multiple clusters in them, you don't necessarily have to connect to the particular Azure subscription namespace that you want to be in. I have the subscription set as parameters on the file so that when I just say connect to dev, it knows how to go connect to dev. At that point, the script's going to pull every HDInsight cluster that is in that subscription. In this case, I only have one, so there's only one, obviously. But if I had any number of them, it would then list them out 0 through N, and then you could select that number appropriate to the cluster that you wanted to change. Now, what happened real quick was the script created a bash script that had a random 32-character password in it, saved that temporary to the local drive on my machine, uploaded that into Azure Blob Storage, and is now executing this as a script action against the cluster. This does take a little bit of time for this to come back, but it's not in a super long period of time. Well, actually, you'll see here that I hit the enter key apparently on accident, and it tried to execute after that. So you do see that there is some error handling in here when it isn't able to update the key vault. But we'll go ahead and just run this again real quick. Also, while it's running again, I'd like to point out the operation state succeeded, name change password, and the URI that it's passing with obviously no parameters. So that this is what is actually occurring on the back end, is that it's taking the file from that storage account and then executing it. We also delete that file from the storage account as soon as we're done executing this, so that isn't sitting around on blob storage with access to, obviously. There we go. Once again, action has succeeded. Putting the name in of a key vault secret that exists based upon the cluster. If you had a standard naming convention of your key vaults that matched the naming convention of your cluster, you could easily programmatically put in the logic to have it execute a specific key in the key vault that assigns to that cluster. And just like that, the cluster's been updated, the password's been changed, and the file has also been removed from Azure Blob Storage and locally from the machine that was used to generate this. Now, obviously, if you're doing PowerShell transcription logging or something like that, this is in your console output, but you could pipe this out to like dev null or something, or out to null, and then not have a output to your screen at all. Looking at the script itself, like I said, we're just taking the subscription environment variables and putting those in here. I find this very useful to have the ability to just execute my changing of a subscription on the fly with parameters rather than necessarily always being connected to the right one. So you can just put out whatever your subscription names are and then your IDs and then call those out. And then we'll set that context. Then we're going to grab all the clusters in the environment, proper error handling in case this does fail, setting up where our variables are going to be for our cluster choice, and then outputting that. And then if it was multiple key vaults, we would do an out key vault, but without that, then we only have one. This is taking the password and creating a random 32 character password string. I grabbed this code off of that link there from a TechNet article. It works out fairly well. I'm doing all alphanumeric just because I've had some issues with some special characters in these passwords before. So alphanumeric 32 characters. It gets changed every 70 days. I'm fairly comfortable with that. Then we're going to upload that, set up a connection to the Azure storage account, upload that so we can put it on here. This is the actual bash script that we are creating. Your very standard user mod that's been existing in Linux forever. That's the same thing we're doing here, just passing that through, executing it out. It looks a little weird on the screen just because of the file formatting issues, between Linux and Windows systems, how the file is actually transcoded. If you put tabs and spaces in it, sometimes it gets wonky. So I'm going for functionality over than code reusability here. Then we, execute the password change, update the key vault, and then clean everything up. And at that point, it's very easy to just run through several clusters all at once. If you have, a large environment, you would just sit here and bang out a few of these. Or additionally, if you go into the key vault on the accounts, and you look at your secrets, it's possible to have expiration dates set on the key vault secrets. So it's possible that you can modify the script, have an expiration date on it, and then use like event grid and scripts or functions or something to automatically do this for you over time. And then if you ever do need that root password for any reason, you can jump in the key vault and grab it, and have this entire process end-to-end automated. Well, I hope you found that useful and gives you some ideas, some nice automations you can have with your HDInsight clusters.